and I were holed up in a hotel in Union Square, San Francisco, waiting for a phone call or email to tell me that our term sheet had been chosen and that we were to lead the next round of investment. The hours of waiting turned into days. It was an excruciating experience, as I felt sure that this was meant to be, yet there was only silence. I had done all I could do, and yet no one was getting back to me. So I just waited and stressed and waited. I kept telling my girlfriend that I checked and rechecked my intent and that the universe opened the door, but why hadn't they replied? What's wrong? It was Friday afternoon. After 5 days, I was done in by the waiting and the silence. And just as I was to read a book, just ready to book my flight home, a message came. Can you come to Twitter? They never gave me an explanation, and nor did I ask for one. I just signed the term sheet and shook hands with Evan Williams and the rest of the team. That evening, my girlfriend and I went to Twitter. They had a party called Tea Time and drank beer and mingled. 2 weeks later, on September 24th, we closed the investment by signing the definitive documents and wired our money. Finally, we were partners and shareholders. The entire experience began with a specific intention and a question. 30 days later, the fastest time to close an investment had just happened. I had just done the most important investment of my career and provided the best return in the history of my firm. 2 months later, I was engaged to my girlfriend. I believe it was Claude Shannon, the famous scientist and father of information theory, who said that all information has a half-life and its value begins to decay the moment it's created. Intent and dreams emerge from the field of karma, or what Carlos Castaneda called the active side of infinity. I try to live my life by being in the present moment, where I have access to my energy body, so that intuition can inform my decision making. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to take a question if you like.
That's awesome. Awesome, Jerry. Thank you very much.
The talk was really very moving and brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we want to open up, so if everybody wants to make a comment or question for Jerry about his experiences or what he's talking about. I just want to put a context for all of us. We are inviting Jerry, and he's generously sharing with us some of his experiences as a way to wake up in each one of you today, right now. What the questions? What is it that I want? What is the universe wanting for me or through me? What are the bigger questions? This is today a propitious moment to really make those questions connect to your body and allow the feeling and the intuition to come through you so that you can put it and manifest in this day of maximum light what is that you are coming through you. So with that in mind, share with us a little bit your comments and questions, and then we want to do something for you to write and set a dream forward before we wrap up. So who wants to ask or comment something?
Jerry, we have a question here from Pilar.
Hi, Jerry, but Erin will translate for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
When you ask questions to intent before making a decision, are you doing it from a state of meditation? How do you know how to ask the right questions?
Well, life goes so fast. You know, you're always active in the world and doing things. And so the trick is to sort of recognize when a question comes. Am I going to answer this question just with thinking? Or do I want to answer this question with thinking and intuition? And if you answer back, yes, I want intuition for this question, then you take a moment and make sure you have access to it.
Max, please ask people to mute themselves. You mute everyone, please.
Yes.
Yeah, can you say that again, the last part? Thank you, Jerry. And unmute Jerry.
Yeah, 1 second, please. One moment. You want to take your control, Jerry, and unmute yourself?
I can speak now, yeah, okay. Did you hear the answer to the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Try again. Lo tengo abajo. Está abajo la luz.
So, Luciano, were you able to translate for Pilar, for Spanish speakers? Or should you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I am translating, yes.
Okay, great. So we got it, Jerry. Thank you very much. Who else wants to comment or ask a question?
I have a question. This
Yes.
is Tom.
Tom, hi, Tom.
Hi, Miles. Jerry, thank you very much for that. And you know, it's very helpful to focus on big events in our lives where intent has really opened something new. I guess my question is, how does this play out, or how do you apply calling intent on a more day-to-day basis? I mean, we never know when the big things are going to happen, and we may have a long-range intent, but just in terms of the quality of life, of everyday experience, do you have any take on that?
Yes, I think you have to go back to the statement I had from Swami Rama, who said, if and I can go back to the original part and I can actually reread it to you, which is basically, he says, if we don't extricate ourselves from the cycle, we are one day harvested by the force of time. We're no longer the creator of our karmas, but instead are created by them. So if we take that statement and we replace the word karma with intent, all of our intentions count. And if we aren't conscious, those unconscious intentional decisions begin to make us. They begin to become habits, and they rob us of the freedom of being ourselves in the moment. And so if you have that awareness when you wake up in the morning and you do some sort of meditation or some sort of movement, you can intend the idea of, hey, everything counts. How do I want to live my life? Do I want to be conscious or unconscious? And I also have the idea for myself that I think the universe is constantly streaming information to us. And it's up to us to be awake enough to grasp it. Carlos Castaneda spoke about the cubic centimeter of chance. In each one of those three dreams, there was a certain amount of frailty in the connections, a certain amount of delicacy. And I didn't have room to make a mistake. I didn't have time to make a mistake. So I think it's very difficult to understand what is an important event or not important event before it unfolds. I had no idea. in any of those three things. At the beginning, it seemed like innocent or random things were happening, and they became significant things. And so I suppose you want to take everything seriously. You want to bring to your life an intention to be conscious for all decision making. And you can test yourself by saying, is there intuition available to me now? It helps you understand whether you're in the moment and whether you have access to your energy body and the wisdom of the silent observer.
It's excellent.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you so much. That moment when, Jerry, you're talking about your third story and the phone call comes, you're super busy, and they say, you know, can you meet with me? That is the moment where there's a recognition of a feeling, right? Jerry's busy, he's doing things, he could be all in his head, and his head would have said, I have no time for this meeting. But cultivating a ongoing state of dialogue and connectivity with our body as a perceiving entity, not just our thinking process, is what allows the feeling to come through. And then that feeling spoke through him in that moment and said, why not? And that is when the machinery of intent can begin to unfold. It's so subtle, and it begins with allowing the voice of the being to also take part, not just the rational thinking process. And I think that's the key for us to open ourselves to be able to have this intimacy with the universe of intentionality, and then projecting these dreams so that they can unfold in our eyes.
Jerry, can I ask you if you can tell us a little bit about the dark sea of awareness relationship to the active side of infinity?
Sure. What's interesting about the work of Carlos Castaneda and the shamans of ancient Mexico, I find a lot of similarities in the cultures of the Ayurvedic culture, and the yogis who for at least 5,000 years have been asking themselves the same questions. And for the Buddhists, who is an offshoot of the yogis, you know, for at least 2,000 years asking themselves the same questions. When I think of the dark sea awareness, it's what Deepak Chopra calls the universe, and he calls it consciousness. He believes that consciousness doesn't exist personally to us. It doesn't really exist in our bodies. It exists out there. It exists as what Swami Rama calls the field of karma. And that the dark sea of awareness is this thing that's obviously beyond our understanding completely, but we can kind of have a sense and a feeling about it, that from there is these forces that act upon us. And I believe that the dark sea of awareness is the source of the force of intent. It's this thing that if you're conscious, we can call on it and have it service us so that we create our own karmas. But if we're unconscious and we're acting unconsciously, we're creating or we're allowing the karmas to create us, as Swami Rama said. And I think that the active side of infinity was that specific feature of the dark side of awareness where karma is active, where action is taking place. And without interpreting karma, you know, there's so many popular ideas of it, who knows, but clearly to me that karma and intent have a sort of